Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 7th session of our ASEAN seminar series of Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. My name is Aya Ono, and I'm a Junior Program Manager in the Trade and Investment Cluster at ASEAN-Japan Center, and I'll be the MC of the webinar today. This seminar series features a variety of topics that center around the SDGs and ASEAN relevant to the field of impact investment. In our first seminar in May 2021, we highlighted the potential of impact investing towards the SDGs in ASEAN with Mr. Mason Tan from Garden Impact Fund as a case to illustrate ASEAN-based impact investment fund investing within ASEAN. In our second webinar in August, we had Realtech Holdings, which is a Japanese tech-based impact investor investing in deep tech startups in ASEAN. The third session showcased 3 successful businesses as impact investees in ASEAN, and the fourth session detailed social impact management and the introduction of SDG impact standard. Based on that, the fifth session focused on impactful investment from Japan to ASEAN, featuring the investment fund called Arun. The last 6th session illustrated the role of intermediaries that enable investees to become more investment ready, as well as other activities that contribute to broader social innovation. All of those videos are available on our YouTube channel. And today we deliver our very last session of our ASEAN SDGs seminar series. In a way, this marks the capstone of this seminar series, as we now come to discussing the role of government towards ASEAN-Japan impact investment. Before we begin, for your information, this webinar is broadcasted in both English and Japanese. If you're using a Zoom app on your phone or computer, please click on the icon that says Interpretation to switch the language. The webinar today will have 3 speakers, each talking for about 10 to 20 minutes. And we will then have about 15 to 20 minutes of the Q&A and discussion session. So if you have any questions, please send them through via the chat box on Zoom. And finally, the presentation slides will be emailed to you once you complete the survey questionnaire at the end of the webinar. So we'd very much appreciate your feedback. Okay, so that's about it for housekeeping. And now let me introduce our very own Secretary General, Dr. Kunihiko Chris Hirabayashi from ASEAN-Japan Center to give us the opening remarks.
Ms. Norzerlina Momin, Chair of ASEAN Coordinating Committee for Investment. Mr. Satoshi Ikeda, Chief Sustainable Finance Officer, Financial Service Agency, Government of Japan. Ms. Yuko Kurihara, Principal Deputy Director, Trade and Economic Cooperation Bureau, Investment Facilitation Division from the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Government of Japan. Ms. Yuka Ogasawara, Impact Officer from Social Innovation and Investment Foundation within the Secretariat of the Global Steering Group and the Japanese National Advisory Board of Impact Investing, and the distinguished guests and participants. Thank you very much for joining us today in our ASEAN Update Seminar series. This webinar today marks the final session of the SDG seminar series, focusing on the role of government to action towards promoting ASEAN-Japan impact investment. Through our seminar series, we have delivered 7 sessions, including today, to showcase various roles and activity of actors in the impact investing ecosystem. As we look at the role of impact investors, investees, and the intermediaries, we will now turn to the role of government to promote ASEAN-Japan impact investment. ASEAN has great potential in increasing impact investment. At the report we published in September last year, noted that ASEAN as a whole captured over 6 billion in the impact investing market from 2017 to 2019. We believe this figure is much bigger now today, and so it is a scale of societal impact being created. In promoting more impact investment, we need sustainable investment policy options that enable investors, investees, and the intermediators to increase their impact investment engagement. Government's effort in reformulating investment policy options will facilitate more fluid investment activity that can scale social impact in ASEAN and Japan. We hope that this session today will be one of the stepping stones for this. Today, we are privileged to hear from 4 speakers. Firstly, we will have the welcoming remarks by Ms. Norzerlina, who is the chair of ASEAN Coordinating Committee for Investment. This is a very important message coming from ASEAN, that ASEAN is striving to build the environment for more sustainable, impactful investment. We will then have 3 main speakers. Mr. Satoshi Ikeda, a Chief Sustainable Finance Officer from Financial Services Agency, will give us overview of sustainable investment in Japan, the position of Financial Services Agency, and its activity toward promoting impact investment. In the pandemic times right now, all of us realize that digital transformation is critical for any kind of transaction. The second last speaker, Ms. Yuko Kurihara from Investment Facilitation Division of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, will introduce us their initiative of J-Bridge. J-Bridge is an online platform that matches Japanese companies and overseas startups and businesses, particularly in ASEAN, to foster open innovation for accelerating digital transformation. Finally, Ms. Yuka Ogasawara from the Secretariat of the Global Steering Group and the Japanese Advisory Board will explain about the Global Steering Group and the National Advisory Board of Impact Investment and why these roles are important in building the impact investing market and ecosystem. With these excellent speakers today, we can try to understand the role of government in building the impact investing ecosystem and how we can best position ourselves to be part of this important movement for financing the transformative promise of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, namely, Leave No One Behind, and its Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. We have only 8 years left before the attainment of the SDGs. We hope that in the next 8 years, as a part of this, the decade of action, we will witness growth in more sustainable and impactful investment that drives many actors to do good for the SDG and beyond for the planetary benefit. We ASEAN-Japan Center look forward to further collaborating with you and invite you all to join us on this exciting journey of co-shaping the ASEAN market of high-impact investing. Thank you very much once again for your participation today. Please stay safe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chris Hirabayashi, for the opening remarks. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Norzerlina Momin, who is a chair of ASEAN Committee, a coordinating committee on investment. ASEAN Coordinating Committee on Investment, or CCI, is an ASEAN sectoral body that coordinates activities designed to meet ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint goals with respect to enhancing investment. ASEAN is active in promoting sustainable investment as a pivotal investment approach for future activities. And they have also held Sustainable Investment Forum in November 2021 to further promote sustainable, impactful investments. We, ASEAN-Japan Center, also presented the potential of impact investment in ASEAN in this forum. Ms. Norzerlina Momin is the current chair of CCI, as well as acting director of the Trade Division under the Ministry of Finance and Economy in Brunei Darussalam. We have a pre-recorded video of her welcome remarks delivered to you. Please play the video.
Distinguished guests and participants, representatives of international organizations, government officials, private sectors, academia and research institutions, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the ASEAN Coordinating Committee on Investment, it is with great honor for me to be given this opportunity to warmly welcome all the distinguished guests, participants and speakers to this webinar entitled Towards ASEAN-Japan Impact Investing the Role of Government. First of all, we would like to extend our deepest appreciations to the ASEAN-Japan Center for actively undertaking research on various topics related to investment in ASEAN, and for continuously extending the invitations to CCI members to take part in this AJC webinar series to discuss the findings of these researchers. In particular, these include the study directly related to the topic of this webinar on impact investing, which AJC published just recently in September last year. We understand that this webinar is part of AJC's ASEAN SDG seminar series, which have taken place for the past year, which will feature the role of the government in the ASEAN-Japan impact investing ecosystem and how it could contribute to the attainment of the UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and beyond. ASEAN is committed in achieving the SDGs, which are complementary to our own integration agenda. As one of the key collective responses to the coronavirus disease COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, the ASEAN leaders during the 37th ASEAN Summit in November 2020 adopted the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, ACRF, as ASEAN's consolidated and coordinated exit strategy from the crisis. Sustainability is one of the major themes in the ACRF. Amongst the key initiatives to implement the ACRF, the CCI is also expected to, amongst others, explore initiatives to promote investment that contribute to sustainable development goals, such as possible ASEAN guidelines on sustainable investment. Pursuant to the mandate of the ACRF above, the CCI had initiated discussions on sustainable investment issues since last year. On 4th to 5th November 2021, the CCI organized a forum on sustainable investment in ASEAN as an important part of this exercise. This forum was held virtually as one of the CCI's 2021 annual priorities on investment, in order to exchange information and best practices on initiatives to promote sustainable investment, and most importantly, to enhance CCI understandings on the issue of sustainable investment and its various interrelated dimensions. Several international organizations have graciously contributed in the discussions of this forum, including from ASEAN-Japan Center, who presented on the topic of impact investing towards ASEAN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The CCI is expected to follow up from this forum with further discussions and works in this issue. The Sustainable Investment Forum, as well as the various supports, including AJC's work in impact investing, have been beneficial in deepening ASEAN understanding on the related issues, and we hope this would facilitate CCI's upcoming discussions and works on sustainable investment. In closing, I wish to reiterate CCI's sincere appreciations to the AJC for organizing and hosting this last series of webinars. It is sincerely hoped that the convening of this webinar will be a great success, resulting in fruitful discussions that will provide opportunity for all of us to see the opportunities, challenges, and recommendations on impact investing. which contribute to the attainment of the global target of achieving the SDGs by 2030 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Norzerlina, for your very kind welcome remarks. We will now move on to the main session with 3 speakers. And firstly, we will have Mr. Satoshi Ikeda, who is a Chief Sustainable Finance Officer at the Financial Services Agency of Japan. Mr. Ikeda was appointed as a newly created position of Chief Sustainable Finance Officer in March 2019. His role is to plan and coordinate the promotion of sustainable finance, both on the domestic and global stage. In his capacity, Mr. Ikeda covers a wide range of issues concerning sustainable finance, which include aligning private finance with the SDGs and promoting task force on climate-related financial disclosures among business corporations and financial institutions alike. He's also acting as a vice chair of the Impact Investing Roundtable, co-organized by the Financial Services Agency and the Global Steering Group, Japanese National Advisory Board of Impact Investment. He also serves as a co-chair of the work stream on ESG data and ratings of the IOSCO Task Force on Sustainable Finance, the International Organizations of Securities Commissions. Mr. Ikeda, it's our privilege to have you today. Now the screen is yours.
Thank you for that introduction. Well, I've been wondering which language I should use, or Japanese or English, and I thought that it could be decided by certain kind of majority vote, and looking at the number of people from the audience who speaks Japanese seems it's a larger group, so I would like to speak in Japanese. So if the English speaker audience, please make interpretation function available right now. And let me share my presentation first. それでは、ここからは日本語ですいません、お話しさせていただければと思います。画面の共有できてますでしょうか？
はい、できております。
はい、ではこれに沿ってやらせていただきます。今日はインパクト投資という、テーマでございますけれども、これは一つの切り口から見ると、これまで、リスク、リターンという2つの、考慮事項からなっていた、投資判断と、いうものの中にインパクト、すなわち環境に対するインパクトであったり、あるいは社会に対するインパクトだったり、そういったものを組み込んでいくという方向性であるわけでして、それを具体的に、企業やあるいはプロジェクトのレベル、そしてまたそれに投資する金融主体のレベルで、いかに実現していくかという課題設定と理解できるかと思っております。で、そういう観点から、どういう形でインパクトというものをそうした投資判断の中に組み込んでいけるのかというと、おそらく3つの方法があるんではないかと思っております。で、一つはそうしたインパクトというものが、それは企業やプロジェクトそのもののリスクやリターンの関係性をですね、変化させるものでもあり得るわけでありまして、そうした関係性をですね、踏まえて、それが企業であったり、あるいはプロジェクトの資本コストを変えるところに着目し、その関係性を探っていくと。つまり言い換えて申しますと、リスクリターンというのがやはりその投資判断の基本になるわけでありまして、インパクトがそうしたリスクリターンにどのように影響するのかということを評価し、それをリスクリターンの問題として考えていくと、そういうアプローチが一つあるかと思います。 それからもう一つが、これはむしろ社会制度的な話になりますけれども、そうしたそのインパクト、これはある種のこの社会的なコストを伴うわけでありまして、そもそもインパクトを考えるということが、いわゆる外部性をですね、内部化すると、経済学的には評価できるわけですけれども、そうしたコストのようなものですね。市場メカニズムの中では、価格が需要と供給を一致させるということになっていくわけでありまして、そうしたその需要供給を一致させるそのプライス、価格の中にですね、そうした世界的なコストを制度的に上乗せしていくような仕組み。これはプライスにそうしたものが入っていくということで、ある種、そのリスク・リターンの考慮の中に、そうした社会的なコストを考慮することをある種強制するような形になっておくわけですけれども、これがまさに、気候変動の関連で、カーボンプライシングのような形で、形を取ってくるということかと思います。それから3つ目の道というのが、おそらくそのリスク、リターンとの関係性とはまた別にある種独立してですね、インパクトそのものを見に行くということであるわけですけども、ただインパクトを見に行くという場合にですね、そのリスク、リターンの考慮に加えてインパクトを考えるということになりますので、実際にはそのインパクトを考えるそのある種の実感的な様々なコストをなるべく簡便化してですね、コストエフィシェントな形でそうしたインパクト評価を可能にし、その利用をですね、ある種強制していくというような道というのもあるんだろうと思います。で、こうした道を取っているのが、皆さんもご存知の方も多いと思いますが、EU が進めているタクソノミーに関するプロジェクトと言えるかと思います。この3つの道について、インパクト投資という文脈で、どういう方向を探っていけばいいのかという、お話をですね、これからさせていただければと思います。で、そもそもリスクリターンに入れ込むという方向性は、グローバルなこのリスク認識の中で、環境、あるいは社会に関するリスクというものが、非常にその企業活動に大きな影響を与えるということが認識されるようになるにつれ、むしろある種当然にやらなければいけないことと認識されるようになっているようにも思います。今表示させていただいているのは、ワールドエコノミックフォーラムのグローバルリスクレポートの最新版でありますけれども、この1月に公表されたこのレポートにおいても、気候変動対策の失敗であるとか、異常気象であるとか、生態系の損失であるとか、あるいは社会的この連帯のですね、崩壊のようなことがですね、非常にこの企業活動に大きな影響を与えうる、今後10年のリスクとして捉えられているわけでありまして、こうしたものがどういう形で企業活動に影響していくかということを評価するというのは、まさに今求められていることなんだろうと思います。でそうした認識の広まりを受けて、最近、ステークホルダー資本主義のような言葉もよく聞かれるようになっておりますが、その企業のそのパーパスというのは何なんだというような議論もいろいろあるわけですけれども、数年前に話題になりました、このアメリカのビジネスラウンドテーブルの、そうした企業のパーパスについてのステートメントの見直しなどにおいてもですね、企業を取り巻く、様々なステークホルダーに、価値を提供していく。 それはもちろん株主もその中に入るわけですけども、顧客であったり、従業員であったり、取引先であったり、それからそうした企業が活動するコミュニティであったり、そのコミュニティで生活する人々であったり、あるいは幅広く環境ということもあるわけでありまして、同じような考え方がですね、ダボスマニフェストということで、これもまた2年ほど前にですね、ワールドエコノミックフォーラムが今申し上げたようなアメリカのビジネスラウンドテーブルと、ある種同じようなステークホルダーが、企業にとって、重要であるというような、ステートメントを出しているということでありまして、そういう意味で申し上げますと、こうしたその企業が活動する基盤としてですね、単にその財務上のそのお金の流れだけを見ていてもですね、企業の価値を高めていくことはできないという方向感がですね、ある種欧米でも広く共有されるようになっておりますし、また最近日本ではですね、岸田総理が、新しい資本主義というのを、提唱されておられるわけですけれども、そうした、日本の文脈でもですね、こうしたことが、改めて、強調されているという状況かと思います。で、その上で、その企業の、価値創造の基盤が何かということについて申し上げると、国際統合報告のフレームワークというものがあるわけですけれども、これによりますと、企業の活動というのは、財務資本を含めて6つの資本によって成り立っているということでありまして、その6つの資本は財務資本以外で申し上げますと、製造資本でありますとか、知的資本でありますとか、人的資本でありますとか、社会関係資本、それから自然資本、この5つがあるわけであります。で、特にこの先ほどのビジネスラウンドテーブルでありますとか、ダボスマニフェストなどで強調されている、その企業のある種活動の基盤としての資本ということで言いますと、従業員ということで言えば、人的資本ということであるでしょうし、その企業が活動している、コミュニティ、あるいはそこにいる人々ということであったり、あるいは取引先ということであれば、社会関係資本ということになるでしょうし、その企業が、活動の基盤とする、自然環境ということであれば、それは自然資本ということになっているわけでありまして、こうしたその企業の基盤になるもののその状態をですね、いかにそのより継続的な持続的な企業価値の創造にその貢献いただけるような形にその資本の状況を維持し、さらにはそれを改善していくかという観点も企業活動なり、あるいはそのプロジェクトのような活動においても重要になっているということだろうと思っております。で、こうした関係性を企業評価という形で整理しているのが、エーザイのCFO の柳さんの提唱されている柳モデルということかと思いますけれども、このモデルによりますと、ある種その財務資本において、適切な資本コストを上回るですね、リターンを上げているというもとではですね、 企業のいわゆるその財務資本上の母価を超えるその市場評価、つまりそれはPBR が1倍以上になっている場合のその1倍以上の部分については、先ほど申し上げた財務資本以外の6つの資本に関連したその企業が価値を生み出しているものになっているということでありまして、ある意味その企業が価値を創造する上ではですね、自らがよって立つその価値創造の基盤となるそうした5つの財務資本以外の資本を強化していくということが企業価値創造に直接的につながってくるということでありますので、まさにその企業が自らのリスクリターンプロファイル、あるいは資本コスト、自身の資本コストを改善するために、そこに環境的、あるいは社会的なインパクトをもたらす投資を行うことが、その企業のリスクリターン、ひいては企業価値を改善させるという点でも、意味のあることだということになってくると。そういうことなんだろうと思っております。それから先ほどご紹介した2つ目の観点で、カーボンプライシングが一つの例でありますけれども、これ、左肩側の世界銀行がまとめております、各国におけるこのカーボンプライシングの導入状況というグラフでありますけれども、右肩見ていただきますと、この、原油価格の変動に応じてですね、この、低炭素を、あるいは脱炭素を実現するための特許の登録というものが同じように変動しているということでありまして、こうしたメカニズムによってですね、脱炭素に向けた動きというのは、ある種このカーボンプライシングを導入することを通じてですね、促進されると。これは特許の登録という形でありますけれども、それが実現できるということが、このグラフからも読み取れるんだろうと思いますし、まさにこうした社会制度が、こうしたある種のインパクトへの対処の仕方、ひいてはインパクト投資につながっていくというルートがあるということで理解できるのではないかと思います。で、最後に、EU タクソノミー、あるいはASEAN でもですね、ASEAN ワイドな、このグリーンタクソノミーを作ろうということで、昨年の11月にはですね、そのフレームワークについてのレポートも公表されていると承知しておりますが、このタクソノミーという仕組みはここに挙げておりますように、経済活動を、グリーンなものとそうでないものに分類し、その、比率をですね、各企業に公表させ、そしてそれによってですね、それに投資する主体において、どれだけグリーンなものに投資しているかを明らかにしていこうという仕組みであるわけであります。タクソノミーそのものは、ある種その分類学でありますので、どういう経済活動がグリーンであるかグリーンでないかというのは、それもイエスかノーかという形で、ある種簡便に決定ができるという意味で、ある種インパクト評価的なものですね、かなり簡便に行うような側面があろうかと思います。ただ現実にはですね、例えば最近様々な話題になりました天然ガスや、あるいは原子力がグリーンになるかどうかということが、そもそも社会的に大きな議論になるということに表れているように、タクソノミーの仕組みを作ることに伴うコストと いうのもあるわけでありまして、そうした点もですね、こうした制度の設計においては、気をつけなければいけない点だろうと思いますし、またこのタクソノミーというのは、グリーンウォッシングを防止し、それによってですね、大きなその資金の流れの方向性としては、グリーンな方に、資金を振り向けていくという、政策意図があるわけですけれども、一方で、そのタクソノミーについては、その分類が非常にある種、簡便に作られていることに伴う、ある種の弊害としてですね、本当にその、資源配分を最適化できるのかという課題もあろうかと思います。そういう意味で、この3つ目のルートであるインパクト評価を非常に簡便にしてと、それによってインパクトに基づくその判断というものを促していくというルートも、まだ様々な課題に直面しているということだろうと思いますので、このルートをめぐる様々な探索のようなことは引き続き続いていくんだろうという気もしております。で最後に金融庁とそれからこの日本におけるこの GSG 国内諮問委員会の共催でですね、インパクト投資勉強会というのをやっておりまして、この後ご登壇される小笠原様にはその事務局も務めていただいているわけですが、それについて簡単に触れさせていただきますと、インパクト投資のエコシステムを作るという、日本において作るということで、2020年の6月から議論を進めておりまして、その第一フェーズが昨年の9月にとりあえず完了したところであります。で、この3月からまた第2フェーズをやっていこうということになっているわけですけれども、この第1フェーズの到達点と今後の課題というのをまとめておりまして、その中では、今後、このインパクト投資日本で進めていく上でですね、一つにはそのインパクトの創出と、経済的リターンが相関しているっていうケースがですね、かなり存在していることについての認識がまだ広まっていないと。そこをやはり好事例を作り出すことによって発信していく必要があるという認識がまずあります。これはまさに先ほど申し上げたインパクトがリスクリターンの中にある種入っていくというルートについて言っていると。で、二つ目の課題として、そうした好事例を増やすためにですね、投資可能な案件の増加でありますとか、多様なプレイヤーの呼び込みの、検討も必要だということで、特にアセットオーナーの皆さんがこの分野に入ってきてほしいという期待も申し上げているところであります。そうした諸々の点、課題も認識しながら、今度3月から第2フェーズに入っていくということでありますし、そうした中ではですね、ぜひ、この日本国内での投資先みたいなことにとどまらず、日本から ASEAN の投資、あるいは逆にですね、ASEAN から日本への投資と、インパクト投資ということがそういう形で行うような方向性も探っていければと考えている次第であります。私からは以上でございます。
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ikeda, for your very detailed presentation. The presentation included from the background, rationale to the framework, and then the Yanagi model that you mentioned. And also at the end, you have touched upon the current role that the Financial Services Agency is taking at the moment for the roundtable to promote impact investment. So Ms. Ogasawara is going to touch upon that later on. And we have 3 questions coming through on Q&A. So we hope that later on we will have enough time to be able to discuss those questions. Okay, we'll now move on to the second speaker. The next speaker is Ms. Yuko Kurihara from Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, or METI. Ms. Kurihara is a Principal Deputy Director of the Trade Economic Cooperation Bureau in the Investment Facilitation Division. She's currently involved in policy planning for Japan's internal internationalization by promoting investment from overseas to Japan, coordination of the international taxation system in Japan, and facilitating open innovation between foreign and Japanese companies. Ms. Kurihara started working for METI since 2009. and she has been engaged in a wide range of projects and initiatives, from writing the manuscript of Trade White Paper, planning an international conference related to APEC Women Entrepreneurs Summit, the strategic development of Japan's robot-related business to drive social change, to legal revision work for reformulating the trade environment for SMEs. Among other things, as a member of METI's Vice Minister and Young People's Project, she was part of formulating the report called Anxious Individuals, Government at a Standstill, which went quite viral on social media. Ms. Kurihara holds a BA in economics from the University of Tokyo and an MBA from Columbia University in the United States. Her presentation will be about 10 minutes today to showcase the initiative of open innovation called J-Bridge. Ms. Kurihara, it's a pleasure to have you today. Over to you, the screen is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Yuko Kurihara from the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry called METI. So today I'd like to share about our project J-Bridge, which is a business platform to promote collaboration between ASEAN and Japanese companies. So let me share my screen first. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. So before we dive into the overview of J-Bridge, I'd like to briefly talk about a new initiative METI proposed last month, the Asia-Japan Investing for the Future Initiative, AGIF for short. Last month, our Minister Hagiuda visited Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand and announced this initiative. Here we propose that we strongly promote future-oriented investment in ASEAN regions so that ASEAN and Japan can co-create innovation and achieve sustainable future. And J-Bridge is one of the key elements of this initiative to create innovation to enhance sustainability and solve social challenges in ASEAN regions, as shown in the blue box on the bottom middle in the slide. Here are descriptions of some projects that forms the initiative, and our J-Bridge project is also stipulated as underlined in red in the blue box in the middle of this slide. Matching events and hands-on support to promote collaboration project between Japan and Asian companies. So what is J-Bridge? This is a business platform operated by JETRO for promoting business collaborations and alliances between Japanese companies and overseas companies. With this, government support open innovation between different companies and encourage them to create innovation and solve social problems with the power of business. We launched this project because we don't think social problems can be solved by only one company or one country. We need to tackle with the challenges hand in hand by gathering different perspectives, talents, and resources. That's why we especially focus on open innovation, collaborations, and alliances here in this J-Bridge project. Here are the areas and regions J-Bridge focuses on. As shown in the left, we set 6 priority fields where we believe innovation and change is needed. Carbon neutrality, mobility, agri and fisheries, smart cities, healthcare, and retails. As you can see at the right of the slide, we set target areas on Southeast Asia, India, Israel, United States, Europe, and Australia. In fact, Southeast Asia is one of the top priorities in J-Bridge. That's why we launched this project very first in Southeast Asia last year. Here is the overview of the services we offer in J-Bridge. We support both Japanese and overseas companies who are interested in cross-border collaboration between Japan and other countries. I hear today there are participants from both SEA and Japan, so I'd like to talk about services for both. Depending on the needs of each company, we are preparing various supports. For example, if you are interested in a particular market in Japan or SEA, but don't have enough information to proceed, we are here to offer relevant market information through websites and online seminars. Then if you're more confident about entering the market, but you are looking for partners to do business with you, we are happy to arrange meetings with some companies which might be the best fit as your future partner. As you proceed, we continue to offer hands-on support when you need. Let's zoom in on some of our services. Here we share with Japanese J-Bridge members about information on relevant market, regulations, key players, and so on in particular fields using Slack. You can communicate with other members on this platform if you want. We also offer you some special programs depending on your needs. For example, as shown in the bottom left, we have a sourcing support program. In this program, knowing your business needs, we proactively source companies which might fit as your future partner. As on the bottom right, we also offer spot advisory services where you can receive professional advice on business strategy, legal affairs, finance, and taxation from experts in each field. Here is the menu we provide specially to overseas firms. We offer you, number one, networking opportunities by welcoming you to the webinars and pitch events we hold. And number two, we support developing your business summary and share with Japanese J-Bridge members who might be interested in collaborating with or investing in you. Number three, we would arrange meetings with companies you're interested in and facilitate your communication if you need. Number four, as I mentioned before, we prepare special business support programs. We often hold various seminars and pitch events so that we can offer you the chance to meet with your potential partners. If you are interested in contacting any companies pitching or participating in these events, we are happy to set up a meeting for you. Okay, I've just mentioned a few examples of the J-Bridge services, and I think some of you can get a lot from this platform. So if you would be interested in this, feel free to contact us or scan these codes to see more detailed information. This is the last slide of my presentation, our challenges and next steps. Now we think we would like to focus more on the concept and value of sustainability because we are facing with more and more social problems to solve, including environment, human rights, social welfare, and so on. We cannot avoid committing in these values anymore. And at the same time, we are sure business can do so much to tackle with these challenges and make change. So we are preparing to launch a new project between Southeast Asia and Japan to support business collaboration, especially focused on sustainability and make change in society. I'll be happy to share with you the updates of this project, hopefully with ASEAN Center, I have the chance, if I have a chance. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kurihara, for the presentation. Once again, the presentation slides will be made available to you after, once you complete the survey questionnaire at the end of the webinar. So that way you will have access to that QR code in the slides. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next final speaker is Ms. Yuka Ogasawara. Now, Ms. Ogasawara is an impact officer at the Social Innovation and Investment Foundation, or SIIF, or SIF. SIF represents as a secretariat of the National Advisory Board of Impact Investment under the broad umbrella of Global Steering Group of Impact Investment. Ms. Ogasawara will explain a little bit more about that. Now, her main projects in her capacity include managing projects of utilization of dormant funds, dormant asset, impact measurement and management, and co-hosting the Impact Investing Roundtable along with the Financial Services Agency. So the first speaker, Mr. Ikeda, is a vice chair for this very initiative. Her career trajectory spans across different continents from Central Asia to Central and Eastern Europe. Ms. Ogasawara has worked for government-affiliated financial institutions in the area of aid and international finance. She's also worked for the Tokyo office of a US-based consulting firm, mainly engaged in management consulting, launch of the office-wide pro bono initiative, and assistance to NPOs that support children. Ms. Ogasawara has then worked for a Japanese government aid agency working in Indonesia, India, Turkey, and other countries. She has a master's degree in public policy. Now, thank you, Ms. Ogasawara, for your time today. We look forward to your talk.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sure. So is the slide okay?
Right.
Okay. So thank you very much for having me and for this great opportunity. I'm Yuka Ogasawara, an impact officer as introduced by Ms. Ono. Today's topic for my presentation is GSG Global Steering Group for Impact Investment and National Advisory Board as a system. Today, I'd like first talk about the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, or GSG, then National Advisory Board, NAB, which is a national board to promote impact investing ecosystem in local context with focus of Japan, NAB, how it evolved, who is involved, and what we do in Japan and why. Then I close my presentation with implications to ASEAN countries, practitioners, policy makers, and private sectors. Okay, what is GSG? The Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, or GSG, is an independent global steering group working to catalyze impact investment and entrepreneurship to benefit people and planet. The origin was G8 London Summit 2013, which was chaired by Prime Minister Cameron at that time, creating a social impact investment task force. Then it became GSG in 2015 as a successor to the task force. Now it has GSG Global and 34 National Advisory Board. And why? The governments of philanthropy alone cannot solve urgent needs of climate crisis and social inequality. Private capital has a key role to play through impact investment. The GSG was founded on the belief that investment done well can benefit all the people and the planet. Its mission is to influence the achievement of positive social and environmental outcomes through an effective and diverse global impact movement. And how? What we can collectively do can be summarized into 3 points: innovate, agitate, and orchestrate. Developing innovative ideas, products, and approaches for impact, GSG tries to disseminate context-specific knowledge for the global impact movement. Engaging with governments, finance, and business to make the case for impact, GSG mobilizes global community to share best practices and agitate for a just transition to impact economies through the network of National Advisory Board, which I will explain in a moment. GSG convenes impact community leaders to drive coordinated action for impact investment worldwide. For example, targeting events like G7 or G20 summit, relevant NABs will engage in policymakers with coordinated agenda at the local context. For example, 2021 last year, G7 UK, we focused on working with UK government, leading to the creation of the industry-led impact task force. While this year, G20 is going to be held in Indonesia, which GSG will collectively try to work towards it to make impact investment investing as a global agenda. So then what is National Advisory Board or NAB, N-A-B? NAB is the national body for impact investment ecosystem for impact movement with access to GST and its network, but not as the headquarters. So it's a national body, independent body, not headquartered by the GST Global. NABs in G7 countries was established in the context of the Social Investment Task Force, which I mentioned, created in 2013, while others are created more recently. Founding members, board membership, driving forces, organizational setups, and governance significantly varies according to each local context. There is no hierarchy existing between GST Global and each NAB, and there is no clear organizational rules, no guidelines about NAB, such as membership, legal status, government involvement, secretariat, and governance. So unsurprisingly, the evolution of each NAB varies across each country, driven by different imperatives in different places, driven by existing practice and history of impact investing and related field in each country, with a tendency to focus on impact investment practitioners and advocates. Their membership with credible and influential leaders from multiple sectors was meant to send a signal to the broad set of public and private stakeholders of both the current and potential development of the field. In many NABs, the Secretariat has been housed with a private foundation, non-profit foundation, that could provide staff and financial support to the NAB process. For instance, in Japan, it's the Nippon Foundation. Now it's a SHIF. In Italy, Human Foundation. And in the United States, it's a Ford Foundation. Different NABs have local characteristics. For example, community investing in the US, the solidarity economy in France and Quebec, Canada, will focus on issues of particular local importance, such as disaster relief in Japan. As for organizational characteristics, for example, the Indian NAB is unique since an existing trade organization of impact investment venture capital organizations, IIIC, has organized itself as a NAB, while Finland, for example, has a very strong tie with government in constructing NAB. So, according to the study done by the Initiatives for Responsible Investment Harvard Kennedy School, there is 6 categories of roles of NABs emerging from intensive interviews of stakeholders. One thing here to note is that not all NABs have this comprehensive list of functions described here. I don't go into the details of each one, but first was legitimizing the field. Second is mapping and field definition. Third, policy development and engagement. Fourth, development of ecosystem. Fifth, intelligence gathering and practice exchange. And lastly, awareness raising and education and outreach. So in summary, some keywords to understand the GST system, though it is sometimes difficult to comprehend because it is not a concrete institution nor single entity. It has cross-sector and collaborative approach, private, government, public, non-profit, supported by collaborative atmosphere as opposed to directive or mandative. Once you're in network, you are given an access to GST Global and peer NAB networks. And again, a large variety according to local context and local leadership. Here, I included selected NAB achievement in 2021 from an annual report GSG. And as you can see here, GSG movement is very diverse and different in local context. So then, which countries are in preparation to create NAB in ASEAN countries? As you can see, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam are in preparation to obtain GSG membership. The GSG Global, headquartered in London, has a strong team to support the startup of the new NAB. But if anybody in the audience is interested in having one-on-one discussion with Japan NAB, I'll be happy to have a chat or refer to the right contact in the network. The next slide illustrates a process map to obtain GSG membership, and there are several resource handbooks available on the GSG website. So if you're interested, please visit www.gsgii.org. So going forward, I will speak about Japan NAB, its history, how it organized, what it does. Since Japan is one of the G7 countries, G8 in 2013, NAB was established as the Social Impact Investment Task Force in Japan, alongside with other peer 7 NABs at that time. So it is relatively one of the old NABs in the GSG ecosystem. Since its outset, Japan NAB has gradually expanding its activities from defining and mapping the impact investing field, making market and public policy recommendations, education, and outreach for the field, and so on. The structure, governance, and setups of the Japan NAB. The board membership was composed of leaders from financial sector, large corporations, non-profit, academic, and DFI or JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. These board members gather biannually, twice a year to discuss and exchange information. And the members are pro bono based, and the majority of NAB activities are driven by the Secretariat organization as shown in this slide. SHIF, SIIF, a non-profit foundation which I work for, is one of the driving force of this secretariat. Interestingly, though with almost 10 years of its history, it is a volunteer association, not holding any legal status. Personnel costs and some expenses of publishing reports and others are borne by the secretariats. Though there are so many varieties of activities of what we do, I have categorized them into 4 buckets according to the formal categorization. First, mapping and field definition. Second, intelligence gathering and practice exchange. Third, development of ecosystem. Fourth, awareness raising, education, and outreach. For example, we publish annual market sizing survey identifying key impact investing market development in Japan and challenges, and so on. As for practice exchange, as Mr. Ikeda mentioned, we co-host Impact Investing Roundtable with Financial Service Agency Japan, which started June 2020. This, I believe, is becoming a platform for impact investing practitioners across various asset classes. Another example includes creating a guidebook of IMM, Impact Measurement and Management, after a very intensive series of discussion with front runners in Japan. Other activities include holding webinars, inviting not only Japanese speakers, but global impact leaders such as Jin and so on. So this is the last slide of my presentation. But lastly, but most importantly, some implications to ASEAN countries in the context of impact investment ecosystem building. First, impact investment ecosystem is not supported by one single sector or actor, needing multi-sectorial collaboration, including market participants, which includes both supply and demand side, policy and regulatory bodies, and nonprofit. Not just the involvement of multi-sector stakeholders, equal partnership between government and private sector is critical with deep understanding of local context. It may take time, but fostering understanding of each stakeholder's interests, sometimes holding some tension, and careful engagement is very important. Developing NAV is not a magic stick, but it's worth considering as a platform to drive ecosystem development. It is a community, information, and innovation hub. It's a combination of intention and accidental or organic process. You cannot make a perfect ecosystem just in one day, but having a strong vision is quite powerful to engage in multi-stakeholders. And this is the end of presentation, and hope this was somewhat useful in your country context. Any questions and comments, please email me at any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ogasawara, for providing a very clear overview of the roles and functions of GSG and the National Advisory Board, NAB. Okay, so we will now move on to the Q&A session. We have about 20 minutes. So let me share the screen here for you. Okay, how about that? All right. So we are having about 6 questions. I think some are already answered by Mr. Ikeda. Thank you. So we will go through some pre-raised questions in advance, and also the Q&A coming from the floor here. So we will firstly go with this question. What can the government agencies bear in mind to jump over the hurdles typically seen in cross-sectoral collaboration? I suppose if that's possible, if you can also share your experience of, challenges around cross-sectoral collaboration, and then how we can best jump over that hurdles. Perhaps Mr. Ikeda, would you be able to start off?
Well, thank you for that question, and it is always difficult to say that how that as a government official, how we can collaborate with the other agencies. But first of all, from my perspective, it is important to share a certain sense of a duty. Often the government agencies are very notorious for protecting their own agencies' interests. But I believe that by instilling certain sense of duty or sense of purpose to serve the society and serve the people, that will create a certain change for the better direction, and to reinforce that kind of a sense of duty or sense of purpose. I think also it is important to have a certain institutional arrangement that underpin the collaboration among the different agencies. So a certain leadership role played by the Prime Minister's office, or that is a very much critical. So I don't have a magic wand for achieving that kind of cross-sectoral collaboration, but at least that is what I've been trying, and I hope to realize. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ikeda. Pretty sure that there is no magic wand, unfortunately, and it does take time and patience, I suppose, for cross-sectoral collaboration. So let's move on to Ms. Kurihara.
Okay, thank you for the question. So in terms of collaboration between Japanese companies and overseas companies, because JBridge connects these Japanese and overseas companies, we hear from overseas companies that okay. Sorry, I'm turning on the video. Okay, so I hear from the overseas companies often that the Japanese companies' speed of decision making is often very slow, and that's a typical hurdle for cross-border collaborations. And actually, Japanese companies' decision making is really, really slow. So we have to improve this as well. So. But anyway, we think it is a kind of Japanese traditional business culture. And because of that, it's so challenging to change it, but we are trying. For example, JBridge provide market-related information or offer expert advisory services and try to make Japanese companies to make Japanese companies decision making easier. So maybe it's a small steps, but that's what we are trying to bear in mind and tackle with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I suppose building consensus is always difficult in Japan. Okay, Ms. Ogasawara, could you please go ahead?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. I guess the question was, how can government agencies bear, but from the standpoint of the non-profit, I answer to this question. And as I mentioned in my presentation, like equal partnership is quite important. And also from non-profit perspective, like non-confrontational attitude may be also important, because a lot of times people, from the business sector, from non-profit sector, we tend to say, okay, so this is the proposal the government should do. But if you want to collaborate with the public sector, which I once used to work for, you have to understand the dynamics of the inter or intra institutional arrangement. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ogasawara. I suppose there is also a bit of a national culture coming into the play as well. Talking about hierarchy, equal partnership is pretty important. Yeah, thank you. Okay, now next question here. What kind of roles can local governments within Japan play to facilitate increased engagement between ASEAN and Japan for impact investing or impactful investment towards the SDGs? Could I start again off with Mr. Ikeda?
Right. Well, local government has a closer relationship with the people living in the communities, and also the enterprise operating in the communities. So that close relationship can generate a certain information regarding the potential source of impact generating investment opportunities, and that could attract the investment from the large players like insurance companies or the other pension funds and other asset owners. So I think local governments can play a kind of intermediary role in facilitating that kind of information generation and connecting that opportunity to that investment potential. So that kind of collaboration is a key, and also in terms of the facilitating the engagement between ASEAN and Japan, I believe that local governments have a certain international relationship with the city and then ASEAN countries, and through that kind of relationship, I think the similar kind of synergies with the ASEAN local governments and also the people and the enterprise living or operating in that the ASEAN local government communities can happen. So, well, that kind of collaboration will be very promising in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. As you said, the city local government usually is very close to local citizens, and also, you know, sister city, affiliated city kind of arrangement is also quite helpful in exchange or promoting such investment activities too. So thank you for your opinion here. Okay, Ms. Kurihara, could you please go ahead?
Okay. So again, in JBridge, we would like the local companies to local companies to join the JBridge platform. So that's why some local governments are already our partners to look for local companies who would be interested in collaborating with overseas companies. So to make innovation and social change. So it would be great, really great if you any local government would be interested in becoming partner of JBridge project. So feel free to contact us or JETRO, please.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Kurihara. And next, Ms. Ogasawara.
Yes, I don't have much to add to Mr. Ikeda, but maybe the local government can become a hub of like a local information center, knowing the key personnel, like the right person in the local ecosystem in terms of like a finance, in terms of like entrepreneurship, like so if local government can function as like a information hub between national level impact ecosystem to the local level, or maybe the country to country, close country network hub, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are having quite a lot of questions here. Thank you very much, all the audience, for your keen interest in engagement. There, I think, is a particular question regarding JBridge program. It's the third from the top. May we ask the fee to join the JBridge program for the Japanese firms, and could you kindly elaborate the selection approach or selection criteria of startups to be matched with Japanese firms? Ms. Kurihara, would you be able to answer this question?
Sure. Basically, you don't need to pay any fee to receive this services of JBridge, so please don't worry. And in terms of selection approach of overseas startups and companies, we closely communicate with local VCs and consulting companies or any specialists in local areas, and see that company's business model, fundraising situation, and teams, and so on. And yeah, so we are kind of like seeing like overall like business situation on the whole. So if you would like to know more detailed information, please, JETRO is happy to talk, and also we are happy to talk. So please contact.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kurihara. So that's been answered. Now there is a question coming through on the Q&A about the gene and global networks and NAB at the country level. And may we hear your insights? I think it's a question coming for you, Ms. Ogasawara. So may we hear your insights in what mechanism, collaboration policies needed at regional ASEAN level to catalyze impact investment or achieve SDGs by 2030?
Thank you very much. And it's our important but very difficult question to answer. But from the as a person inside the GSG network, I kind of feel that there's no need to the addition to like a institutional arrangement in terms of like a ASEAN level, because now in NAB system, we do have a very close communication between like each NABs and also the task force, which is in preparation to become a NAB. And there is like a ASEAN, Asian Pac regional information exchange session and all that. So in terms of the NAB system, we are already trying to sort of achieve at the national level, regional level, and a global level in order to sort of like catalyze impact investment. And so I hope this is the answer to your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Ogasawa. Actually, if we may, there is a similar kind of question coming through on the Q&A. The second last one, it says, what is the starting point for NOB? I think it's NAB or NAB, to be multi-stakeholder association, and what is the key for well-functioning? Yeah, I think it's also to do with where can we actually start the discussions of setting up the NAB.
Sure. There is no like a clear like answer or like a one single answer. Okay, so this is the perfect answer to start up the NAB from the scratch. And in some countries, the group of like our group of the financial institutions started to kick off. The others are supported by like Ford Foundation or like a DFI. So there is no rules or there is no right answers. But it's probably important to have like a one driving hub. It could be private, it could be foundation, it could be nonprofit, but based in the local context, not just like a foreign aid agency. That's one point. And what is the key for well functioning? It's and then it's also important to have like those driving hub can engage in multi-sector actors, and also the hub can act as a sort of like a neutral body, not just seeking to his or her own interest. And that's another part. And also funding is also probably important. And in ASEAN countries, I believe there is an opportunity to receive the funding from like aid agencies, multilateral or bilateral. So that may be a good start to seek the funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ogasawa. Sorry, just to follow up on what you just mentioned, you said that in ASEAN, there are 5 member states that are currently in discussion for developing a NAB. Would you be able to maybe perhaps briefly talk about what level of engagement currently in place in those countries?
Oh, sorry, I don't know that much about the detail, so okay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. All right. So there are a lot of questions coming through, but let's move back onto the prepared questions number 3. Again, sorry, it's a question to you, Ms. Ogasawa. Sorry. There appear many European countries that set up their national advisory boards, but are there any frameworks within the EU that inform the specific lessons learned for ASEAN regional promotion of impact investing? And then you can talk about different things from regional taxonomy, regional investment promotion agreement, etc.
Thank you very much. I kind of feel like Mr. Ikeda maybe better person to answer to this question, but not directly related to the impact investing, but EU is quite a front runner in terms of setting up the EU-wide regulations such as TCFD, set up sustainability standards, and those regional level standard setting regulations and like a rule making will surely help mobilizing funds into the sustainable project, including impact projects. So that having sort of like a set of standard regulation, guidelines, coordinated one, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ikeda, is it possible for you to add onto Ms. Ogasawara's?
Right. I don't think that right now the EU agencies are trying to address that the institutionalizing a system of a kind of impact assessment advocated by GIN or other impact-related organizations. But as I explained in my presentation, EU taxonomies are the attempt to facilitate the certain impact assessment of economic activities, and in that sense, European countries in the EU are addressing that kind of challenge right now, and I believe that the ASEAN also plans to establish a certain taxonomy system within the region, and that could help the impact investing in the ASEAN region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's actually in the interest of time, I think we will conclude the Q&A session here. But if you have any specific questions that you'd like to have answered, please feel free to email us. And I think the email address will be actually sent to you later on the chat box. Okay, so let me wrap up this final session. Okay, thank you very much once again, all the speakers, for your contribution to this seminar. Thank you very much. And thank you also for the participants for staying on till the end. It's been a long seminar, I understand. And we hope that you found this seminar quite useful, and also, and hopefully this webinar somehow shone a light of hope that despite these challenging pandemic times, with cross-sectoral and cross-border collaboration, we can see the bright future ahead. Okay, with the session today, we will conclude this seminar series. We had in total 7 sessions, including this one today, illustrating most actors from investors, investees, facilitative intermediaries to government. And what was missing was the intellectual researchers and advocates who still play a critical role in building the ecosystem of impact investment. And from next financial year, that is April onwards, ASEAN-Japan Center will further increase engagement with impact investing actors and drive to promote more impactful investment between ASEAN and Japan. And we welcome any ideas for collaboration, research, and support coming from all ASEAN member states and Japan. And we do have some specific scope of work and capacities, so please have a look at our investment promotion page on our website and see how best we can work together. And if you wish to get in touch with us to discuss further, please feel free to email this address that is now sent to you on the chat box. And we hope to hear from you here today. Thank you. And I would also like to remind you that the presentation slides used today will be sent out to you by email once you complete the survey at the end of the webinar. So we look forward to receiving your feedback. Okay, once again, thank you very much all the speakers and all the participants for joining us today. Now, the Omicron surge that we see here in Japan and ASEAN is more than a concern. And as we navigate through uncertainty, we hope that you are staying fit, healthy, and in good spirits. And we wish you all and your loved ones safety and health. And see you next time. Thank you very much. Take care.